Welcome back to Pie the Corner. My name's Brett.
And I'm Shane.
It's good to hear from you. How are you doing, Shane?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too. Good to see you. And yeah, I guess what? It's been a couple. It's like every time we get together, some other crazy shit has happened in our country, and this past 2 weeks is certainly not going to go by the wayside. It's one of the crazier times. What is today? It's the 16th of January, and man, I mean, it's just every day you just wonder what else is going to happen. What have you been doing last week? What have you been reading? What have you been, watching?
Let's see. So I've been reading. Well, I've been reading this one book that's called The White Tiger. It's a novel. It basically won Book of the Year for some. It was a really popular novel that came out in 2008, and the only reason I'm mentioning it on the cast is Netflix just made a movie about it, and it's about to come out on Netflix. And I've had this book for so long, dude, but sometimes you just don't read a damn book or you start it and you put it back down and that keeps you from reading it again. Well, I'm determined to read this book this time. And I was reading it before I saw the movie was coming out. And now I'm like, damn, I got to finish this so I can watch this movie. So I'm reading The White Tiger. It's a story about a dude that's in India and he's an entrepreneur. And I'll just leave it at that. It's a real quirky, really cool story. Some of you guys will probably watch the movie before long because it seems like it's gonna be one of those movies that everybody watches and everybody talks about. Um, Music. I've really been enjoying my music this week. There was this artist collective called the Soulquarians that were doing hip hop in New York City and in the late '90s, early 2000s, and they basically had Electric Lady Studios on lockdown. They were the first ones to record in there for a long time, and they kind of fixed it up and made it their own. And it was the Roots and Questlove, it was Common, it was Erica Badu, there's a band called Slum Village, an artist named Bilal, and D'Angelo. Those are the main people. And they all work together on all their projects. How Eric Badu's on some Roots music, or she works
Hmm.
with Common. And
Yeah.
Questlove plays drums on every project. And then you have D'Angelo. And man, there's a playlist on Spotify, and I have just been getting so deep into that because I wasn't listening to. It's 20 years old, but it's like hearing it for the first time, and it's such quality music. And check that out, anybody, if you're into that sort of thing. It's really, really, really good. And finally, what I'm watching is Ozark. I finally started watching that
Oh
show
yeah.
Ozark. That's kind of a hit on Netflix. And because I like dark dramas, man. I think I've told you before. I always like the dark dramas, and this is kind of like that. But I would call it just better than average. I don't think it's dynamite. It's not like Better Call Saul or Fargo or True Detective or Breaking Bad or on it's not on that level, but it's pretty good. And I've been enjoying that.
Cool.
What about you? What about you culturally? Are you checking
Uh,
anything out?
um, Reading wise, nothing really too much. I've been reading more articles than anything. A lot of articles in the Atlantic and um, you know places like that where I'm just trying to read up a little bit more on some of these fringe groups that are around right now, and stuff about the Boogaloo Boys and Proud Boys, and just to get I mean, for me, it's just about trying to get a better handle on like because like when you see like a news story on like some whatever, any name a channel, it's going to be just really overblown and kind of overly dramatic. And so what I like about long form articles is, of course, they can really kind of tell you like how it started, what it is, and even though I know a little bit about them, both of them anyways. So yeah, I've been doing a little bit of that. Listening to music, interestingly enough, that you bring up that collective. For some reason, I caught a Cypress Hill song that I thought was really cool, and I was in a TV show or something, or a movie I was watching, and so I kind of got into their catalog a little bit just because I used to like a little bit of that, but also listening to some Tribe Called Quest and just some older stuff like KRS One and things like that. So also on going down a little hip hop
Right.
um, path there. So that was kind of cool. Watching stuff is just like, again, watching news and current event stuff, but trying to find some non-hyperbolic shit is just almost impossible.
It's
Like
it's
everything is just
it's
like the
rising,
end of the
right?
world. The
Rising is the
rising,
only thing.
the
It's the
rising,
best shit
rising is it.
going, dude. I watched Eric Weinstein, that thing I sent you, and he just was like, "You guys are doing it, and you look right." He's like, "You got that
Yeah,
set, and it's
yeah,
it's true." Um, that's cool. Just real quick back on that hip hop thing. It's surprising, but not really surprising. I think what's drawn me to it is its realness. It's something fucking real, you know. And also I always say hip hop is the music of the revolution.
mhm.
And Ozark has been my escapism. You want to talk about getting away from that hyperbole, and all the coverage is just, I hate to say it, it's just so drastic. They can't just talk about something, you know, very much like Crystal and Sager do. Just talk about it. They get so emotional and they say, "Oh no, this is gonna happen. Oh no, this is," you know, it's just it's alarmist, dude. All
Yeah,
the
yeah.
reporting is alarmist and it gets so tiring. So I've been escaping into a lot of kind of binge watching series. Anyways, yeah, back to that thing you said about, every two, we only do podcasts every 2 weeks these days, and it's good and it's bad. It's good because we have a whole lot more to talk about. It's bad because so many things happen and we can't talk
Yeah,
about everything. Uh,
yeah.
we both pretty much knew that today, even without talking to each other, that we were going to talk about the events on January 6th, the riots, the insurrection, the coup, the sedition, you name it, whatever you want to call it. In the past, when things have happened, like what happened on January 6th, you would call me up or I'd call you up and we would do a podcast the next day. And this was a moment like that. But this was such a traumatizing event that I really wanted to digest it and think about it and kind of reflect on it a little bit instead of just kind of giving an emotional seat of the pants moment. So here we are today.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I remember that day. Obviously, I had just like, I just got a new dog or whatever, but I was taking her for a walk, and that's when you texted me and like, and it was just like one word, and you were like, I can't remember what the word. I think you were just like, "Holy shit," or
Yeah.
not one word, but like one emotive, and I was like, "What?" And you're like, "The animals stormed the Capitol," you know.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, and then I immediately start to look for like video of it or stories about it, and it was so new. It was just unfolding, and I was just kind of like, oh, okay, like what, like a couple people got in because I hadn't
Hmm.
seen anything yet. But yeah, I mean, shocking, but not so shocking, not so surprising. Um, and how it unfolded. I mean, it was just one of those things, man, where like that initial feeling that I was getting from it was just like, this is chaos, and like, what are they going to do? Are they just going to sit in there for? Is this going to be like a standoff type thing, like where they're in there for like a month, and
Hmm.
they have to be talked out or whatever, and just wasn't sure. And I, of course, a few things popped out at me, which was all the frickin' Trump flags, and just like how this was not about, like, to me, it was not about like saving America. It was about saving Trump,
Hmm.
which just is just like the fucking cherry on the top of the ice cream sundae of this whole 4 years. Is just like these people all brainwashed, just like save Trump, thinking like that's gonna save the country. But I made that comment, like it's like a dog chasing its tail. It's like once they get in there, what are they gonna do? What do they think they're gonna do? It's not like everybody's gonna go, okay, all right, you're right. Let's just keep Trump in there. Shit doesn't work like that. But I mean, I don't know. It's just it was shocking. It was shocking, but not surprising, I guess. What were your initial thoughts?
Well, I don't know how Oh, I tuned into the news just because I knew that Trump's rally was about 1 p.m. that day. And there was just, all the writing was on the wall, dude. That's why I can't understand why Capitol Police or the mayor of DC or whatever said they were unprepared. I mean, even without analyzing intelligence, the writing was on the wall just from the rhetoric, you saying you're not surprised. So I tuned in just to see what the hell was going to happen. I just never in a million years thought that they would breach slash be let into the Capitol grounds. And so I want to share something with you. I was watching that go down, and it was like, as the barricades were being breached, uh, while there was hand-to-hand combat between the cops and the protesters, and then it was breached, and the same thing happened at the Capitol doors. Watching it, it was like watching it in slow motion. And what it reminded me of, funny enough, was watching the jets fly into the buildings on 9/11.
Mm.
Just because it's one of those things, you're seeing something that doesn't jive with your belief. You're seeing basically something you never thought would happen or never thought possible, that type thing.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of us can say we weren't surprised. Yeah, I wasn't surprised, but I was surprised. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. That's a
I
good.
knew it could happen, but I didn't think it would
You don't
happen.
expect it to.
Yeah.
It's same thing with what's coming up, starting tomorrow apparently.
Yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
is like I don't expect anything to happen because it all sounds like a lot of blustery talk.
Mm-hmm.
But this time around, and now I'm a little bit because of this event,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit more like something's probably going to happen
Yeah.
because there's enough. If anything, if it comes down to just the craziest of the crazy, thinking that they're going to like fight the government, which is something like, look, we've seen this since we were kids. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've seen that militia type, like we're going to fight the government. We're going to, keep our freedom, blah, blah, blah thing for a long, long time. And this is like, feels like the boiling over point. But yeah, I mean, when I said surprised, it's like, or not surprised. I was surprised in that it was actually happening. And I didn't, it's interesting you said that you brought up the 9/11 thing because I guess maybe it was just like kind of a shock or something, even though I wasn't like, I didn't have any anxiety. I was just kind of sitting there just like, this is just ridiculous. This is so stupid. What are they even doing? But, so, I mean, because they were already making those comparisons on the news,
Well,
like this is like 9/11, but,
I saw them both. You had to have seen them both live on TV.
and I didn't see that.
That's
Yeah.
the only way to experience. That's the experience I'm telling you. I don't think you could agree with me unless you experience it that way.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm kind of with you as far as this concept of like the dog chasing its tail, or you know they breach the Capitol and then they're like, okay, now what do we do? And that was basically what I thought the narrative was. Day of, couple of days after, but it's starting to come out now. I mean, I immediately thought that it was an inside job, that certain Capitol Police worked with them, even
Sure. Yeah.
without any evidence. That was my gut feeling, because
Mhm.
it can't happen, dude. This is DC. This is one of the most protected
Yeah.
cities in the entire world, you
And
know?
that building too,
And yeah,
the seat of our
okay.
government.
And
Yeah, for sure.
so that happened. So, anyways, it got breached, but it's come out more this week because, man, they're having to do some pretty serious studies. I heard today that 13 Capitol police officers are under investigation for working with the rioters. Um, they're saying that some congressmen or women might have worked with them too,
Yeah.
and uh, oh, but
Yes.
the thing is, when you said when they got there they didn't know what to do, that's true for a lot of them, but at the same time they were going for Pence's head, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. And at that time, I guess I would say that that's how I felt was like they don't know what they're going to do once they get in there. But now all the stuff I'm seeing is was at least a group of them that were legitimately going to find him and Pelosi and
Mm-hmm.
perhaps murder
Yeah,
him, kill
yeah,
him,
exactly,
assassinate him.
exactly. Yeah, and
So
I think we were way closer to that than we realized at the time.
yeah,
I think a lot of people probably aren't paying as much attention as you and me are, and they still don't know this to be the case. You know, they're kind of wanting to just dismiss the whole thing as a bunch of, you know, hot-headed, overzealous, normal Americans. But that was not the case, dude. I think you'll agree with this. There was probably the most hardcore people, the strategizing people who were part of the crowd, and then everybody else was just followers, you know?
right. The caught up in the
Hmm.
moment
Yeah.
group.
It
Um,
it was a mob reaction, man.
yeah. Oh God. I mean, that's what I've been thinking. Like a lot of these like over these stories, which I mean, well, here's the thing. Here's my take on the reporting of this. Is I don't think it's overblown how serious this was. But the way that the media is, it sounds like they're being overblown with it. Even because we're so used to this, like, oh God, they're just going to make this like the end of the world. But the truth is this was a legitimate attempt. And again, like people can say, well, Trump didn't say, say this or that. He didn't push him, but based on some of the reading that I've done and some of the investigating that's been done, there was like a concerted effort by people like Roger Stone and these congressmen and women that you were talking about, and the Proud Boys. There was like they believed that there was some Bitcoin money that was transferred from overseas somewhere to help this group organize, and like there was a legitimate organizational structure to what was happening. And
Hmm.
my guess is they assumed, rightly so, that there were going to be enough people that were going to just jump on that train in that
Hmm.
heat of the moment, because that is crowd psychology. The mob will always does not have morals. The mob is completely a self driven thing. It feeds on itself and it just
Hmm.
goes.
Hmm.
And these people are all still responsible. I'm not taking it out of their hands, but the mob mentality idea is a legitimate strategy
Well,
to
yeah,
get people
like
chipped up.
it's like an energy thing, and when attention gets focused on like something that's outside the crowd, outside the group, like whether
They
somebody
all
calls
know.
them out, like the CNN crew that got caught in the crowd. Did you see
Yeah,
that shit?
yeah, yeah.
They were caught in the crowd for 2 minutes, and like one guy called him out, and then all the gaze of the crowd shifted to them, and it was just like they wanted to kill him, they wanted to rip him to pieces, dude.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, I mean,
and
oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, like Martha Raddatz, who's like I think she works for ABC. She was like visibly shaking, and her voice was shaking, and I was sitting there just thinking, like, you should not be there, because
yeah.
if they realize who you are, they could potentially kill you, because they wanted to kill somebody, and they did kill somebody. They killed that police officer. So yeah, I mean, the media was attacked, and just bizarre, man, just really bizarre.
Yeah, I take satisfaction in the fact that they finally showed America who they are, because America, for the most part, has been denial about this shit that's been going on,
The other
you
way.
know? And they're right wing, and America's right wing, so they're just saying, oh, they're not that bad. You should check them left wingers out, you
Yeah,
know?
right. This BLM and Antifa was there.
And they showed that their whole thin blue line shit is a bunch of crap that they don't mean at all. And that needs to be established. Uh, Not to mention the fact that there were cops and military going against the government. These people swear oaths to serve and protect these things that they were breaching. That's fundamental, dude. That's
Yeah.
foundational.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big reason why the Joint Chiefs came out with that statement, which was just unprecedented,
Hmm.
to basically say, we follow the Constitution. We believe that this was an insurrection and a sedition. We will not engage in, unlawful orders, or we will not, follow unlawful orders. And it's basically saying all the people in the military,
You,
because there's a huge number of them that are probably right wing. And
Pat,
it's
when
like, you cannot do this. You're not going
Pat,
to.
when you just said that, and when I read it, it dawned on me that you could not have a more American moment than that.
Right.
The
Yeah.
Joint Chiefs of
I was
Staff,
proud of that.
basically. Yeah, exactly. I think so too, because I think that's a real American moment right there, and I hope I'm not, you know, too caught up in that moment, but it
Well,
sure did seem real to me.
totally, man. And for the very reason that if they were on board with this shit, it'd be over. That'd be it.
Yeah, yeah.
It would be exactly what they were trying to do. And this is the whole thing I think that's coming out is like because it was Trump, because it was that group of people, that's the reason why it failed. If this was somebody who was actually a little bit more adept and a
Hmm.
little and had the ability to organize better, they could, you know, they could really have done something. So it was kind of a relief, it was really like okay, thank God. Like I know that they're going to, do their job and do the thing that they're supposed to do, or at least they're saying they're going to. So yeah, I mean, it was for me. It was I echo your sentiment. It felt like a really American moment. Like, hey, we're going to follow the Constitution, and I'm like, because otherwise we're fucked. I mean, there's no other way around it. But I mean, the thing is this is the thing is it was an inept try, and yet how easily did they get in there? But again, like you said, and we were saying, it does appear that there was probably an inside, job type scenario going on here for sure, and it's just going to be crazy to see this unfold. Uh,
Yeah.
but you had talked about, you had asked that question, like, how could this, happen like that, and then get so easily just walk in and they not be ready for it. And I think all the things that I've read and seen is people are saying, and it's kind of true, is like, well, they're white people, and they assume that they're not going to do that. Whereas when it's Black Lives Matter and that group, their assumption was they're a
Okay,
threat.
okay. You just really touched on something there that I really kind of couldn't quite digest is that they assumed they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Um, and so they were overwhelmed. I just still just don't see how they weren't staffed better, you know. Even if you do make that assumption, I think they would have been staffed better. Almost I don't see how they wouldn't be staffed better every day, 365 days of the year.
That's a good point. Well, I think it's, something came to my mind during all of this is it's sort of like how people are like, security guards. Security guards fall asleep all the fucking time. Like they get sort of an apathy about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're
Because
protecting, you
nothing
know,
ever happens.
nothing ever happens. So you
Hmm.
sort of are lulled into a sense of security that isn't, well, that it is sort of real because you never have to deal with anything. But then that one thing happens, it's like, oh shit, what do we do? And who knows what the leadership was. And certainly there, it's come out that the calls for the National Guard went unheard or basically were denied 6 times until Pence finally stepped in and said, okay, we need the National Guard in here.
Yeah.
And when that happened, they dispersed. When they came in and they finally showed that just I guess it probably wouldn't say a
Well,
small show of
they
force,
started
but
tear gassing
yeah, I
the
mean,
Capitol.
but they
But
could have
that
just
was
as
that was
easily,
3 hours later, man.
right. And so they let it. It's almost like, well, they're letting them get away. They're letting them get out, burn off some steam or something. That's my take on it. Was like, what the hell you think they're doing? They're just like, oh, they'll get over it and leave. It's like, no, this is
It's funny what you touched on earlier, but you didn't really say anything about it. As far as occupying the Capitol, when they got in, I thought that the Capitol was occupied, and I thought we had a days long event on our
yeah,
hands.
yeah, at
I
least.
really did because that's the way it happens around the world. And basically they just walked out, which is kind of funny because every last one of them should have been arrested right there when they
I
were
mean,
walking out.
and that was the other surprise, I guess, like shocking thing was how they just kind of moseyed along and okay, see ya, just kind of walked away. And I guess there's one aspect of that where you say, well, there's so many cameras and they were all live streaming their crimes that they
Mhm,
were
I
probably
know.
like, don't worry, and
Is it?
they're rounding them up now, but it still was like they're just like, okay, bye. They're all on their cell phone. Then that was fun, wasn't it? And like having a good time.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until after that curfew came up that they started actually like arresting some people. out on the streets and had pushed them back already a few blocks or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, still, it's this is the whole thing. You just like sit there, just like, man, like you really are giving these people a lot of fucking leeway right now to do whatever they want, and with this now 2020 hindsight, that they were there to kill some people, most likely if they had found them, and one of the congresswomen, I'm sure you've heard her name, Bobart from
Mm-hmm.
Colorado,
Oh, the
the
gun-toting one.
QAnon, yeah. So there was this woman that they talked about who had like a pink cowboy hat on in the during this whole thing in the Capitol, like saying, no, it's down here, like directing them where to find the people. It turns out that that's her mom, and that she was in there doing that shit.
Okay.
And so this is one of those things that's starting to come out, like how they had given these tours
Well,
to
they
people the day
found some
before.
really secretive places, dude. Places that aren't public, rooms that aren't marked. Like there's
Yeah.
places that the public doesn't know about that they went right to.
Yep.
Okay. That's why they're having to say, okay, how did they get there? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy,
Uh,
man.
so have you gone around and like looked at pretty much every piece of video that's available? Have you pretty much seen it all?
A good fair share. There's probably
Yeah.
so much more I haven't, but
Well,
a good
yeah, but I mean the
share of it.
easily recognizable stuff. Um, that video where they're outside, where they're all just beating on that cop with flagpoles and a
Yeah.
crutch and all that shit.
The one that they
Uh,
killed.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just that shit. That was ugly, dude. It makes me wonder why somebody in that group didn't like stop him, you know? I mean, I know that's back to that mob reaction thing, but I'm going to tell you right now, if I was in a mob, and I know you too, you would try to say something, dude, or stop. I know it, because I've seen kind of mobbish shit before. Some people can stay independent of the mob, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I agree.
And so I just couldn't. It was a freaking Capitol Police officer. Somebody should have stopped them. And this is just one of those kind of human nature things that you just kind of have to think about and decide what it is or what it isn't. But I'm just like, how could somebody not stop that, man? And it's just, and somebody's filming the whole goddamn thing.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of people probably were, that we haven't even
Yeah.
seen their videos yet, up close and personal. There was another Capitol policeman who was dragged out, and he's done an interview now. You can find it. He's
Mm-hmm.
got a beard and some
Mm-hmm.
tattoos. That's how you recognize it's him. And he was saying, like, they pulled him out, and he thought of shooting some people, starting to shoot, because they were saying, like, get his gun and kill him with his own gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard that.
So he was thinking of doing that, but then he realized, like, I'd only get a few of them, and then they're all gonna take my gun or whatever they're gonna do. So he just said, "Hey, I have kids," and there were some people in that crowd who did kind of help surround him and sort of protect
Okay.
him.
Okay. That's what I'm
So
talking about.
yeah, so there is some of that, but I think that initial one was probably one of the first ones, I would guess, where they were just like going on just adrenaline and anger and like the mob mentality, and I don't think they could stop themselves.
Well, evidently the anger exploded the moment they found out that Pence was going to certify the election, that he wasn't going to do Trump's bidding. That's when they all just collectively became enraged and went batshit crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they could have seen that
And
coming because
that's why there was, this hang Mike
yeah,
Pence. There's a freaking gallows set up on the outside of the Capitol grounds, man.
yeah, man. An engineer actually looked at that, and he said, like, this was not like some like protest thing where they're just like saying, hey, is a gallows. It was like legitimately put together with like 50, 60 pound beams. It would have done the job that it needed to do. It would have actually held the weight of hanging somebody. So, like, basically that's him saying this was legitimately put up there as for a reason, not to just say, hey, we're going to hang you if you don't do what we want. It was like, no, we're going to really legitimately hang you if you
And
violate that.
these people that are it's amazing that these people that Trump got these people to give up the American flag for the Trump flag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Though I did see some Trump flags that one side was the American flag and one side was the Trump flag.
So
But
crazy.
there was that video outside the Capitol building of a dude trying to lower the American flag and raise a Trump flag. Like they took the Capitol, or they landed on the moon and planted a fucking
Yeah.
Trump flag,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Is it like, are we Trumpia now? Is that what they're implying?
Yes, and I think that this is like the difference between a coup and a revolution. A revolution is something that's an idea, and it's like, like, okay, we're going to free these people, we're going to free ourselves. Whereas a coup is about a person, and that's legitimately what it was. And it was, when they first broke that barrier on the steps, and they all ran up, and the guys up there going, waving the big Trump flag like that. That
Mm-hmm.
is straight out of the movie Patriot. If you have ever seen that movie with Mel Gibson, like I
Mm-hmm.
just watched that like a few months ago for some reason. I was like, never seen it. Let me just take a look. And there's like the penultimate scene of the movie is him running up a hill with the old faithful, and he starts waving it, and like they're going against the British, and it's exactly what this guy did, is the same imagery. And I was just like, how bizarre that here he is doing this with the fucking Trump flag, and this idea that like everyone's just going to accept this, like that's, I think, you could say QAnon or whatever. These people are fucking mentally ill, dude. Like they're not. I mean, again, there's the mob mentality thing, but they're kind of like this in their
Mm-hmm.
daily lives, and they have this idea like he's sent here by God, and we need to, save the world with Trump. And it's just like, dude, this guy doesn't give a fuck
Well,
about you.
why don't you talk about what you talked about a couple times with that whole belonging thing that so much of this is about? You know what I mean?
The
It's like all these people that are just basically losers that can never kind of find their place in society. This Trump cult kind of gave them their place for the first time
well,
ever.
yeah, I mean, like,
And that's
look,
that's that's a lot of it right there, right?
yeah, there's some legitimate concerns, or legitimate issues that they have. These are people that come from a lot of post-industrial towns in the South and in the upper Northeast, and basically they lost everything. Like their towns are shuttered,
Hmm.
and they don't have any way to make a legitimate living necessarily. But then having this pandemic has made it worse because they're the group that's like hurting the most, and no one's doing anything for them. But they're being told that it's because the liberals or the devil,
Hmm.
or
Right.
whatever. So yeah, I mean, there is like a strong. I mean, first of all, basically I say that because that's the opening that gives them the ability to feel like, okay, I'm part of a group now that is strong, and we're going to get something done. And he's for us because he has that populist message, which is utter bullshit. I mean, in its actual execution, but it is a populist message that rings true for these people, and that they're stealing our jobs. The immigrants are stealing our jobs. The Democrats just don't think we're all stupid, and I mean, this is their first chance to really feel like they have a say in what's going to happen in their lives. I think I'm guessing that's where a lot of this animus comes for them, is that they think like, well, I'm in charge of my life now with this
Hmm.
group of my new group of
Exactly.
friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I mean, it's true, man. Like we if we don't address, if that's not addressed, this shit is going to continue. There's going to be an insurrection.
Well, you touched on it about, how the strongman personality can be so appealing and why it is so appealing, even though to people on the left, it seems like it's almost impossible that that would be appealing because that's dictators and fascists and stuff, and that's anti-American. We fought a world war over that, but Americans are just like any other people on the planet, and they can succumb. Certain segments of the American population can be quite enamored, by a strongman personality, and Trump did that. I don't know that much about presidential history, but he had to have been one of the more strongman type personalities in the history of American presidents. And to your point, It's to make up for that weakness, that powerless feeling, that alienated, weak, everything's been taken away from me feeling. Suddenly they have something. So I'm really glad I asked you to talk about that.
Well, yeah, and I think it's important to bring up too, because this is why this whole idea of, well, he's not doing anything for them, but he's hurting the right people, and it's the people that they hate, that
Hmm.
they've been told to hate. And there's a really interesting article I read recently where they talk about this idea of conservatism as a whole. The big C conservatism is about protecting the aristocracy, and that's why there's so much work towards tax breaks for the big businesses and so forth. And this whole idea comes about as they sort of live their life through this idea that the rich we're gonna be there someday, so we're gonna protect them. And it's total, it's total bullshit. But it's why they can see all of this shit that's done by, say, somebody like Trump, which is just some stuff that they would never ever agree with for any other person that they know. But they tend to believe that people that are in part of the aristocracy, the rich, are inherently good no matter what they do. So whatever he does, it's based in good. And whereas they look at, when you help people, you're going against the aristocracy. That's bad. That's why they hate liberals and Democrats when they try to help somebody, or even somebody like Bill Gates, who's part of the aristocracy. He's the fucking second richest man in the world. He tries to help people. They immediately go after him because it's to the detriment of the aristocracy.
Hmm.
So they would give it all up for that. And there's a somebody came up with this phrase where they said, I can't remember who it was, very very well known, and I'm paraphrasing here because I can't remember it totally, but they said, if Republicans cannot win through democratic means, they won't give up on what is it, that they won't give up on, they won't change their ideas, they'll give up on democracy, basically, or
Yeah,
something
yeah, yeah,
along
yeah.
those lines,
Well, and that's been shown to be the case.
Yeah, yeah. So I just bring it up because, man, it's you know this is something that Eric Weinstein was talking about, and this is something that they talk about on the show with Crystal and Sager. If you don't address this shit, it's not going to go away. It's not going to just disappear.
Hmm.
You know, they think like, now we're going to move forward. We're not going to move forward. This is the same thing I was talking about a few weeks ago when it's like, oh, everybody thought, well, when the new year comes, like all of a
Hmm.
sudden,
Hmm.
this is going to disappear. No, like it's just starting. This is just the beginning of it. Hopefully, maybe it's in the death. The Trumpian shit is in the death throes, but those issues will continue. So
Um, Oh, a couple of things. I said immediately after January 6th, probably January 6th or January 7th, that they need to get a $2,000 check in people's pockets as soon as possible. That will calm shit down. And it looks like that's going to happen. That's a good idea.
yeah,
As far as if you continue to just let this shit fester, things are only going to get worse. That's absolutely true. And you're right. They won't do anything, but there's a burgeoning people's movement happening right now that's bigger than it's been at any time in my life. It's partially because of the internet. It's partially because the facts on the ground call for it. They pushed us too far. It's time for America went too far to this uh, corporatist right, extreme corporatist right, globalist, international money corporatist right. It's time to swing back down and give a little bit of money to the people, probably for a couple decades. This is the way America works, dude. But they're not going to do anything unless their feet are held to the fire. And this is an issue that we continually kind of emphasize in our conversations over and over and over again. We have to demand it. We have to force them to do it. We have to embarrass them. We have to be annoying. We have to criticize them. We have to fund other candidates and primary people. Just constant pressure.
yeah,
America kind of goes to sleep politically every so often historically, and we're coming out of a slumber, dude. I really believe this. And I'm already kind of an optimist, but this isn't just my optimist side. It's There's no other choice. And to your point, it's either a new beginning in America, a rebuilding of America, or it's the end of America. And
Mhm.
I think, you know, the former is going to win out, dude. You know, kind of what Heather Cox Richardson talks about all the time, the power of ordinary Americans working together for a common good. Uh, I heard somebody, I've asked me what I watch. I've obviously been consuming a lot of media, and actually more mainstream media than I have in a long time. Not intentionally, it's just kind of come across my radar. And oh, what was I just saying?
You were just talking about that the time is now for like the
Oh,
populist
oh, oh,
movement.
and basically somebody described that January 6th event is the last gasp of white supremacy. It was that guy Anand on MSNBC, and it was a really good point. And because what this is in essence, this Trump thing, and it's a slapback, dude. It's a slapback to the changing world that we're experiencing. You know,
Yeah.
that long arc of justice that King talked about. It's happening really, really quickly, dude. Last year, millions of white people had a racial reckoning and had to look inward and ask themselves questions. Am I this way? And they all said, I want to be better. And they all went to Amazon and bought books on race relations and read them and talked to their partners about them and their friends and coworkers.
Yeah.
That is where we're at, dude. So this is slapback to that because they don't want the changing world. They're threatened by it. They're weak. They're powerless. They feel like all white males are being attacked. You know, a friend of mine says all the time, he's like, "What? I feel like I have no rights being a white male." You know, I'm like, dude, you are. Stop watching those people that say that. It's just not true, dude. That's just like
Well,
rhetoric.
dude, I
But
think you're so right. Oh, go ahead.
no,
Finish your
no,
thought.
I'm glad that flowed, dude, because that's where we're at, man. And you're not told that story uh, on the mainstream news, but a lot of us are talking about that story. And that's what this Sager and Eric Weinstein interview was about the other day, appealing to the frontal cortex instead of the limbic body.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people because all the mainstream media is the limbic body, you know, sexual urges and stuff and emotions and shit. Instead of
Yeah.
appealing to that, we are going to solve this problem by continuing to talk the truth and talking to people that talk the truth.
Hmm.
And so this is what's going on, man.
Yeah.
Both things are going on at the same time.
Very well said, and I think that's I'm just going to talk a little bit about my own experience, like during the summer and the riots, or the protests that some of them turned to riots. You know, I wasn't quite getting it, and I was just like, what? I mean, I know that this is true, and I know that there's this white privilege, but I just don't know like how it manifests itself. But now I get it. Now after this thing on the 6th, I get it. It's the sense that we can go in. I mean, these motherfuckers are blown away that they have consequences to their actions. Some of them are like, "What? Hey!" I mean, these are like
They're
congressmen
like,
and senators.
can
Like,
I get a pardon? Can I get a
yeah, I
pardon?
mean, they're like, "Hey, they're not going to do it again. Don't." This is classic, fucking classic. Rich kid getting off when he fucks up, and this is what their thought process is. Is like, don't worry, he learned his lesson. He's not going to do it again. This is just a one-time deal. Blah 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 blah. It's just classic, dude. And it's like that's what it is. Is they were in there busting shit up and thinking probably while they were doing it like nothing's going to happen. We're just having some fun. We're just some good old boys releasing some energy, you know. And to see them have consequences and to see how shocked they are by it is like that's the white privilege. And I think you're totally right that it is the last death grasp because, you know, in the last year, or maybe last 2 years, you hear all these commentators talking about, you know, we got to save the republic with Trump and blah, blah. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you trying to save it from? What are you saving? What are you saving? You're all these people that you're talking to that are your listeners are poor white people and they don't have anywhere to go. They don't have any money. All they have is their church, which tells them the same shit and it's just amazing, dude, because it is just like it's kind of a control feature, and we know now, like for sure, that that's kind of what the whole thing in the South was like, you know, poor whites didn't have slaves, but they were told that these people are going to ruin your life. These people of color are going to ruin your life. And so like they have this animus toward, or, this anger towards them. And it's like it was all set up for the aristocracy to just keep shit going the way it was. That's what this is. And so it is like, I think, a breaking of barriers. This is why you're seeing a lot of people changing their affiliation now. I mean, it's not huge numbers, but people are like leaving the Republican Party in droves. They're sick of it, dude. They're done with this shit, So I mean, dude, I think you're spot on with that. I mean, totally. And it's not going to be just the 6. That's why it's hard for them to give this up. But I think they're that throws.
Yeah, well, the best thing we could do would really be to prosecute as many of them as possible and just kind of show the lesson that there are consequences for breaking the law. I mean, not even just to single them out. I mean, they're the law and order people, damn it. They need to have consequences, and they didn't just break any law. They broke pretty big laws. And so that needs to be established. We need to establish that order. We need to make Capitol police officers pay if they're guilty of something. We need to make congressmen pay if they're guilty or something. And I'm talking about federal charges, dude.
Fuck yeah, dude.
America needs that, and and I wish they would do it. I feel pretty certain they won't do it with regards to the congressmen.
Well, this is the same thing we need to push for that anyways, because look, they've already come out and said, well, if you do that, it's going to be really dangerous. It's a threat. That's a veiled threat.
Well, then what? Fire them all, and replace them.
And and in the past, I would have been like, yeah, let's, because we're all agreeable, like on our liberal agreeableness is like, well, let's. I don't want to make things worse, but this time I'm like, fuck them. It's like they're going to do it whether they're held accountable or not. They whatever they have planned, they're going to do it. So it's like, you have to hold them accountable. You fucking have to hold Trump accountable. Anybody that's involved in this, you have to hold accountable. And like you said, federal charges, not like rich person accountable. Like, okay, $100,000 fine and 30 days probation.
Let them resign or something.
Yeah,
that doesn't cut it, dude.
Yeah, it has to be a statement made. And this idea, like, again, it's become a meme. Really, it's like. The conservatives asking, Republicans asking for fucking unity now. It's just like, we've had 4 years of this shit, of dealing with this guy telling you what a fucking jerk off he is, and now you're like, we want unity. Hey, that was bad, but let's not get crazy here. It's like, no, you're done. Your brand of Americanism, I wouldn't even call it that, but is done. It needs to go away. You need to pay for it. So I don't know. I wanted to change the subject. It's the same type of subject, but a couple of the things that came out of this that I wanted to ask you about, your thoughts on. First one is, what do you think of like all of these banks and corporations taking away the funding from conservatives and Democrats too, until like certain things are done to basically deal with this issue. So it's basically like corporate world flexing its muscle. So like, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's the corporate world flexing its muscles at all. I think it's a PR move, basically, so they can just say they're on the right side of history. But you mark my words, in 6 months they're going to be donating again. I think it's completely insincere, and it's just a way to get their name in the news so people can say, hey, look at this good thing Citibank did. That's what I think.
You're probably that's probably right. And then the censorship.
Oh, censorship. I'm aghast at it. I get where they're coming from, as far as, they want to try to prevent something bad from happening. I'm going to tell you something. I'm glad you asked me that question. I'm against it. I wouldn't have shut down Trump's. I wouldn't have permanently banned him. I was okay with like the 24-hour bans. I think that's kind of cool, and it really pisses him off. And any platform, you get repeated violations, you get banned. But Now that I think about it that way, but the thing is, he's president of the United States, okay? You cannot censor the president of the United States. I just don't think you can. And it makes me think of stories that I've read, like, say, over the last 10 years, where, the rebellion is happening, like in Iran, or, you know, where they shut down all social media so that people can't organize and,
Yeah.
this is coming for America. We just hadn't experienced it yet.
Yeah.
So what I will tell you is this is the first time it happened, but it won't be the last. This will be a continuing thing that's going to be happening all the time. And if America truly goes into kind of true revolution rebellion type thing where it's for a cause and people are organizing and using social media to communicate, it'll all be shut down. They'll shut down Facebook. They won't just ban people. They'll shut down Facebook. They'll shut down Twitter. They'll shut down Instagram. They do it all over the world. We just haven't seen it yet. And so it's a very multifaceted question you asked me. I'm glad it happened so people can see that, yeah, this happened, this happens, and this is going to happen more. I'm against it. But this is where the elite power structure of the world lies. So they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So they just kind of exercise their power, dude.
Thank you for that, for the take. I'll tell you what my take is on it.
Okay.
So I think you're right. It's a PR move. The first question. It's a PR move with an unintended consequence. Is it highlights in stark relief how beholden to corporate money our politicians are. Because the second they did that, there were Republicans that were calling for social justice. And I mean, that's like a word that they probably has never left their mouth unless it was to denigrate it. And yet they were out there like, oh, we really need to work on this social justice.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, because you just
community.
lost your fucking money. You just lost your funding for your next campaign. So I think there's like that unintended good consequence of demonstrating to everybody what we already all knew, but just seeing how quickly and how starkly they will completely change and just lose their principles for, okay, yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, I meant, we do need to do that, On the censorship, totally agree with you 100%. I don't agree with it at all. I think it's a slippery fucking slope. Now, this is something I debated with myself a lot because I'm like, well, shit, on one hand, like, I don't want all these people online planning the shit that they do. And Parler is nothing but mostly it's people talking about a revolution, civil war, killing people, murdering people. It's a lot of that shit. So, I mean, is that free speech? I mean, there is a case made about incitement versus, just talking. And so like, how do you handle that? I think you need to have moderators that look at that. But again, like, just like you, it's better if we know what they're saying and are able to counter it than to send them underground where we don't know what they're doing. And then we really are kind of in a position where we don't know what to expect. Same thing with the president. It's like, he's a dipshit and he incites violence. There's no doubt about it. But it's better to see it and challenge it right there in the moment and have people challenging it than to just completely cut him off and make him a martyr, which is what it did. So the other thing about it is, like left movements, like farther left movements, and I'm not talking like, woke, Antifa type stuff. I'm talking about legitimate, good left movements are also censored by these same companies because they go against the corporate structure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that's where you could see, like, you think it's great because all these lefties are like, yeah, ban Trump, ban the conservatives, and it's like, you're next. You're next.
No doubt about it.
If it doesn't go down the fucking line of what they want, you're next. Just like what you said, like a really popular movement that starts, they're trying to organize, they could just shut it down like that. So it's a bad precedent, and it should not have been done. The 24-hour thing, I could have even seen, okay, you're off until after the 20th. I could have seen that. okay, that's something. But this cross the board, like you're gone, dangerous.
And see, I think what a lot of people, I am against banning him, and like I said, I'm not against temporary bans. But like I said, on any platform you're on, if you're part of a forum or a chat group or Facebook group, if you have repeated violations, they're going to kick you from the platform.
Yeah.
So I kind of get it in that regard, but I'm going to tell you right now, there's no other president ever that will get shut down from Twitter again. I just he was so universally hated even before we knew he was as bad as he was.
Yeah.
A lot of Trump supporters are like, you never got off the election, and they kind of have a point there that we've hated him the whole time, but let's face it, he's just not a very likable person.
No, he's terrible.
It's
He's
not
an
like
awful human being.
he didn't make it's not like he didn't make his own bed. It's like, yeah, you're right. I have hated him the whole time. And then I've grown to hate him worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. I mean, and in the end, it's like when having that out there and his bullshit out there, it pushes people to action. If they had banned him a year ago or whatever, shit, man, we might not have won that election.
Yeah.
Or the Democrats might not have won that election. Because I mean, it's the rhetoric that gets people, to do something. So I mean, it's important that that's still there,
And I'll tell you one thing. If there is one just really, really, really good thing that's come out of the 4 years with Trump, is that all of these ugly Americans came out of hiding and showed themselves for who they are, and or however many they are. And now the sane Americans know what we're working with and know what we have to do. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
we have to be aggressive to counter it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people were lulled into a false narrative when Obama was elected. Like we'd done our part, like we got there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I was just going to counter and say, I don't know if we know what to do. I think you're right, though. You have to be really aggressive in countering that propaganda that they hear. But it's tough, with these algorithms. It's tough to break through. But I mean, this is, it was great what you sent me, that Eric Weinstein thing, because he really kind of puts it in. He's such a smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like, you have the super left and super right, the woke left and the MAGA stan and
he said Wokistan and MAGAstan. I love that. I mean, you couldn't distill it better than that, dude.
Yeah, dude, I love that too.
And I think Wokistan is funnier than MAGAstan.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, is like, it just all of this censorship and shit, it just drives it further apart, because they can go, well, you didn't do that to them. And the truth is like, a lot of that shit is ridiculous. I'm sorry, but I mean, you can't just, they attack every fucking thing. They're like, they attack actors for acting like they're a gay person because they're not gay in real life. I mean, how fucking dumb is that? They're an actor. That's their job.
And they're supposed to be so, socially aware, so woke, right? But they're so unaware. They're so unself-aware. That's the irony of the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's like, as woke as they are, it's even more like a fucking clamp down.
Everything's clamped. This is with so many. This is the Karen thing, but I think the left really has an issue with this. It's the mind your own fucking business thing.
Yeah.
Just
great.
butt out, dude. Butt out, dude. Just don't worry about that shit. And the left can't help but worry about everything and poke its head into everything and try to make it right.
Well, and look, man, it's like, it is. I think that's a fucking great way to put it. It's like, just bullshit, just butt the fuck out, like get away. Because in the end, it's like, you can't just change the whole world just to suit a fucking 0.4% of the population. You can't make everybody do what you want them to do just to suit that little group. I mean, that little group has a right just like everybody else. But it's like, I don't have to fucking like you. I don't have to, it's like, I might think you're an asshole. Does that make me like a bad person because I don't like you? You might think so, but It's like, Jude, just like you said, just like butt out. Get the fuck out of it.
Cool.
I don't know. Well, that was a good one. Guess we could wrap it up. You think?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening. If you're listening, and remember to check us out on the podcasting platforms and like, subscribe, give us feedback. Check us out on YouTube, and yeah, good conversations. Good talking to you again.
All right. Until next time.